You know, the three of us came together to show that financial planning does not have to be done in a stuffy office.
It's an open, collaborative experience between client and advisor,
where we learn about you and everything that makes you who you are.
We're not just building our own business for us. We're committed to building this firm for you.
We all come from different backgrounds, but we all stepped out because independence was important to us.
We're committed to building a firm where you come first. We want to listen to you and build the experiences you want.
So many people have hesitations when it comes to visiting a financial advisor. It really should not be like going to a dentist's office.
A lot of people have a built-up fear.
Have I saved enough?
Can I retire?
Am I paying too much in taxes?
Am I vulnerable or exposed?
We created the firm because the industry has changed.
No longer are we just giving investment advice.
We want to provide a deeper picture than you've ever expected.
Open Air is an experience.
It's a conversation.
It's a plan that will make an immediate impact on your life.
We've created an environment to look at every piece of your unique situation and come up with a comprehensive plan to meet your goals.
Too many times, I've seen it. The quick Social Security or the quick tax tip without any thought to how this might affect other parts of your life.
It's like a Rubik's Cube. You can't change one piece without it affecting the rest of the plan.
Delivering sound, independent advice without any compromise is our practice.
You know, if you go talk to an accumulation advisor, do they know how to do the math on Social Security? Do they know how to take get every dollar out of Social Security? Are they looking at your Medicare? Are they looking at your risk? This individual that Stuart's talking about, we see it day in and day out. You feel like he was telling you about all the protection he was putting in the portfolio, but when it came down to it, and when we actually had the situation like we're having, this year, where was that protection? Did he have the right tools to help protect the portfolio? Because at the end of the day, if you're living off of your portfolio, you've got to have a place for that income to come from.
And I've been in that other advisor's shoes. I mean, I worked for one of the big box, firms in there.
We all did.
We understand the pressure that they need to get, X amount of clients. And so what happens is I learned a lot, I got a lot of repetition, but what happened was I learned a lot of skills, but I wasn't able to spend a lot of time with these people. So, asset gathering is somewhat an easy part of a job, but once you start bridging and going over that gap and really doing comprehensive planning, you can't have, 500 clients. You can't have 250 clients because it does take a lot of time doing what we do. And that's why I think our relationships, kind of snowball and we add value, week by week, month by month.
But one thing that I'm talking to a lot of my clients about, people I work with on a daily basis, is Roth conversions. We hear it all the time. I should do Roth conversions. And so we're going through and we're looking at individual situations and what does that mean exactly and how can it benefit you?
One example of that here recently is basically we took someone through our process and really learned a lot about their situation, basically where their assets at were currently. And the guy was actually pretty smart. Like he was a do-it-yourselfer for a long time, or he kind of dabbled in and out of basically getting professional help and Wikipedia and those types of things. But he had
Wikipedia taxes.
He didn't trust himself when it came to Roth conversions because you can make a mistake and end up blowing up the whole plan. So what happened is basically when we started looking at basically his tax, his 1040. I can read a 1040 and I can basically build it what it would look like 5, 10, 15 years from now, because that's what you need to determine if you do a conversion or not. So he had an idea that he might be in one of those people that might get unlucky late in retirement and his taxes go up. So what happened is we came up with a really good plan that this year that he should convert about $50,000 to do a conversion. Lots of different reasons why we did that. One, it kept him in that low 12% tax bracket with him and his wife because we know what's the big jump after 12%. It's the 22% bracket. So that's a big jump that for him, it didn't make sense to avoid. And so one thing that we haven't hit on, in Roth conversions is we want to be doing conversions when the market's down. That's that's one of the rules of thumbs I like to say. And so right now the market's down.
Last week, consumer price index came in at 9.1%. Inflation is through the roof. And so really raising interest rates, the goal of raising interest rates is to slow down the economy, slow down that inflationary number back to their mandate of right around 2%.
The president has said time and time again that we are not heading into a recession. What are the experts like you saying?
Well, technically, a good rule of thumb for a recession is two negative quarters of GDP. First quarter of this year came in at negative 0.4%. The second quarter came in at minus just under 1%. So we technically have had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. Some would argue that with unemployment being so low, maybe we aren't in a recession. It's really tough to know if you're in a recession until you look back and really measure the economy. So we won't really know until later on. But technically, with GDP growth being negative, it looks like we're in a recession.
All right. How much has inflation impacted gas prices and everyday goods that we need to buy, like groceries?
Oh, yeah. In mid-June, the average gas price across the U.S. was over $5. And just like you said, that permeates everything. Everything whenever you go to the grocery store, from any packaged good, manufactured good, to the produce on the shelves. And so the good news is I filled up my tank this morning on the way in for under $3.50. So we are seeing a good trend line there. Where it goes from here is really anybody's guess.
Oof. Now, home sales, they're dropping fast here in North Texas. Is there a good reason for that? Is that the increase in mortgage rates? And do you expect that trend to continue?
Well, it's all going to be tied to interest rates. At the end of last year, the average 30-year mortgage rate was 3.25%. Today, it's over 5.5%. The average house price in the U.S. is $428,000. At the end of last year, you would have paid $1,500 for that mortgage. Today, you would pay $2,000 for that mortgage. And so home affordability is a big issue. As interest rates go up, it makes it harder and harder to buy a home. But as you've seen this month, we've actually started to see those 30-year mortgage rates come down. So as they come down, I think it'll make it a little easier, and we might see those houses moving faster.
Yeah, let's hope so. Is inflation making it hard to retire right now? What are you seeing with your clients, and what are you telling them?
Well, inflation and this market, we've seen volatility both in stocks and bonds this year, and that's made it really difficult to look at those 401ks and those retirement accounts. What we tell our clients is you need to have a safe bucket of money. You need to have a foundation to your overall financial plan. And so having a place to go for your income so that you don't have to sell assets that are down. That's one of the worst things you could do is looking at your accounts and selling while you're down. The goal is to buy low and sell high. Right. So having those foundation pieces is important. At Open Air Advisors, we're risk management experts. You can learn more about how we manage portfolios at openairadvisors.com.
There's some people that, they're having a difficult time dealing with inflation and just staying afloat. Some people wondering if it's okay to dip into their 401k.
That really is a tough thing. Really, your 401k is really designed as a long-term asset, really there for those later times. And so anytime, it's really not a good idea to dip into your 401k, especially as it relates to, everyday expenses. Right. If you have to do it, there are resources to do that, loans and different things. If you can stay away from it, try to get your budget in order so that you don't have to. Really look at both those fixed expenses and the variable expenses in your budget to keep yourself in line. So that you're not spending more than what you're bringing in on a day-to-day basis.
The next thing that we need to know is what are your expenses and what is the distribution need that you're going to have in retirement to look back to say, is this enough? Do we need to take the level of risk that you're taking now, or do we need to be dialing that back? So risk tolerance.
Learn about their grandkids. Are they going to be giving to, see their kids, or their kids or grandkids? I mean, those expenses aren't just your daily expenses, but they're like, what are your goals? Are you going to move, home improvements, those types of things? Are you going to put a pool in? Those are things that are really important. And so again, we're congratulating her. Maybe we should, maybe her expenses are $25,000 a month,
And you see that, you really do. If you sat back in our office, we see that every day. One of the things I noticed, there's a small difference in their age, 67 and 65. So when we look at Social Security and some of that other planning, that might be something that we look at. We don't know.
That wasn't clear to me in here, whether they've turned on that spigot or not, if they both started Social Security. Are they both waiting to retire?
And assuming that they haven't, and if we look at the plan, did both of them work and have about the same kind of income? Has she not worked and him, or did she work all these years and him not work? So when we look at that, we might delay one as protection for the other spouse, right? Because if one of the spouses predeceases, the biggest Social Security is going to survive. So we want to make sure that we're protecting the family as we build that retirement plan there as well?
There's usually someone on the scale of worried about everything and doesn't want to spend a dollar. And then there's people on the other side, you know, the opposite, who want to buy everything and travel across the world and maybe don't have the funds to do it. And they're not worried about a thing and have everything's carefree. And then, you know, most of us are somewhere in the middle where we just don't know, and it's an angst or a little bit of a worry going into retirement. So I always tell folks that, you know, it's gonna, as you get closer to that day, that anxiety or that worry can build. But just know that as we're building these plans, we're planning for retirement. And I know John and myself and Stuart included, it's not something that we take lightly. When we say you can retire, it's just as much fun for me to say that to somebody than it is to hear it.
Yeah.
And I don't say it lightly. I worry for you as an advisor. And so that emotional thing, when they go to retire and they actually do it, first thing I would say I hear the most is, I don't know how I got anything accomplished while I had a job, because that schedule automatically fills up with all these honeydews and grandkids and stuff to do. I don't know how I got anything done. And then the second thing I hear is, you know, I just don't know what to do with my time. And then I'm worried about how much money I'm spending, and is it enough? Is it going to last? And so, you know, that first 6 months is kind of what I tell people and encourage them to put a budget together before you get to retirement, obviously. Figure out what you're spending, what you think your spending is going to look like. And then in the first 6 months, reevaluate that, because I bet it's different. I bet you spend less or more than you thought you were going to spend. And then guess what? 12 months, it's going to be even more different, because you're going to overcorrect after that 6 months than when you get to 12 months. And then typically, I tell people to plan to spend more in the first few years of retirement than the latter years. Because the first couple of years, typically what I see is people are going to do all the fun stuff they've been putting off. You got big travel plans, you're going to do that in the beginning. And then later in your retirement years, you're going to be old and grumpy and make everybody come to you.
So you don't want that plan gathering dust. You want an advisor who is looking at you, looking at your plan, and keeping up with the things that's changing literally every day around us. We're in a global world. I don't think, you know, stability is a word I'll be using anytime soon.
Boy,
so,
no kidding.
So making sure you're working with a firm who's communicating and making sure your plan's adapting. That doesn't mean day trading by any means.
Right.
It means keeping up with the large kind of macro changes that's happening around us every single day.
Welcome back in your consumer news this morning. The time right now is 8:24, and the Federal Reserve raised interest rates another 0.75 percentage point in an effort to cool down the high cost of living and level out inflation overall. Local financial professional Stuart Fields from Open Air Advisors joins us to share how this latest rate hike could really impact our finances in the future. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Cleo. How are you?
I'm good. All right, so we think we know here, right? But let's ask the experts. Why did the Federal Reserve increase those interest rates yet again?
Yes, well, last week we got that dreaded inflation report back, and unfortunately it was a little bit higher than we expected, which caused some chain reactions across our broad market. So Fed week, when the Fed gets together, it's normally not a good thing in this type of market. So the Fed got together. Because of that bad report, they decided to take another aggressive rate hike of 0.75%. And coming out of that meeting, it looks like they're going to raise rates 2 more times this year. With maybe a target of 4%. Currently, we're about 3%. And just to put it in some perspective, to start the year, we were about 0%. So this has affected a lot of people's jobs. So something that we're definitely keeping a close eye on and seeing where we can help.
Right, Stu, when we talk about the future, I mean, how do higher interest rates impact our wallets? Are we talking higher prices in the grocery stores, never being able to buy a new car if you've been saving up for one because it's outrageous? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I wouldn't say never. Hopefully things do get better. Hopefully inflation can come back down because ultimately that is the Fed's goal, is to slow down the economy to a degree where we don't go into a full-blown recession. And if we do, hopefully it's not a long-lived one. So again, definitely want to make sure that if you do have debt, that we begin paying it off. There's a couple different approaches to take. One's the snowball effect, which means start early, start small, and get that momentum going. The other one's the avalanche approach. Start with your highest debt first. That's going to save you the most money, but sometimes you don't see that instant gratification that you're looking for. So that's a couple good ways. The other way is, I've got a 4 and a 2-year-old. So I want to get them out of the house sometimes, and it's easy to spend a lot of money entertaining these guys.
Yeah.
So do a lot of research. Plan your trips, whether you're leaving town or if it's just a couple hours out of the house. With inflation, entertainment prices going through the roof, it's a good time to do some good planning to help you save and lower that debt.
Yeah, Stuart, you have little babies there. Is there anything that we can do to take advantage, per se, of the rising interest rates?
First of all, maximize what you own. Come up with a good plan. Right now, the last 10 years up until the pandemic were really good years. So that plan that was very correlated to the S&P 500 worked really well. However, the last 2 years and going forward, being super correlated to the S&P 500 may not be the best move. So what once worked, for over 10 years, it's probably not the best path going forward. So maximize what you own. Don't have any knee-jerk reactions, because some of the best days in the market are followed by some of our worst days.
Good advice. Good advice there. Stuart Fields from Open Air Advisors, thank you so much for joining us here on Daybreak.
Thanks for having me.
As things change, the plan needs to be reevaluated often.
Okay.
We don't go exercise one time and we're fit for life. That's not how that works. That's not how your plans work in retirement, because things change. And when we put these plans together, there's so many variables that are unknown.
Yeah.
And that's why we plan for as much as we can. But also part of that plan is knowing that there's going to be things that we don't know about that are going to happen.
Sure.
And so we need to be prepared for those as well. And really, I speak for myself, and I know John has a little bit of fun with it, but as these things come up and we see the plans that we put together and how they are either greatly impacted or not impacted as much based on that planning that we've done, it's really fun to see, okay, we put a plan together not knowing this event was going to take place, and the plan stood tall and it did what it was supposed to do.
I love that.
And that's where we want to evaluate that stuff ongoing to make sure we have those keys in place.
A lot of folks need to look at the level of risk. These 5 years before retirement are some of the most important years, and can a challenge or a mistake here can change the lifestyle they're going to have in retirement. On our website, Open Air Advisors, we've got a nice tool it's a lot of fun. I'd encourage married couples to do it together. Have one spouse take the quiz and see what their risk is. Have the other spouse take the quiz, see what their risk is, and then come together and have a discussion about it. But overall, your level of risk needs to fit with your plan to make sure that you're going to be able to reach those goals. But I would also encourage everyone to work with an expert, a fiduciary advisor that can put together a plan that includes your Social Security and taxes and retirement plans, where you get all that together to make sure you're going to be able to meet your goals.
John, that is so important. Pay a few extra dollars to talk to an expert so that they can really map out everything, so that you can see, hey, can I retire at this age or not? Will I be all right? And for people who are still working for more than 5 years away from retirement, maybe, what should they do with their retirement savings right now?
Oh, the first thing is let's make sure everyone's getting all of the free money. A lot of 401ks have a match that will allow the company to actually contribute. But for most folks to get the retirement to reach their goals, it's going to take a lot more than that. Probably in the 10 to 15% range is what we talk to our clients about. But make sure that you're consistently contributing to those plans. And again, I would say talk to an expert. Again, on our website, we've got a nice calculator right there on the homepage that'll show you can put your information in, and it'll tell you the contributions you need to be making into your plan to help you reach your goals.
Yeah, those retirement calculators, they definitely come in handy. We've been talking about baby boomers. Can we talk about millennials? Because during the pandemic, there wasn't that, I don't know what the exact word I'm looking for, penalty rather, to take money out of your 401k, right? So many people go into their 401k maybe to buy a house or something like that. How can millennials play catch up if they've been playing around with money in their 401k?
Sure, and luckily they've got a 3-year time period to put that money back into the 401k, but it's just as simple as that. Making sure you've got a good budget that allows you to put those assets back into the plan where they belong. It was nice, and a lot of people had situations where they did need to dip into their retirement savings, and that's understandable.
Right.
But it's time, as the economy opens back up, to get back on track. Let's start putting that money back into the 401k, and the risk is, if you don't, that you'll have taxes taken out on that. And we want to make sure that if you can avoid that, you avoided the penalty, but you didn't avoid the taxes. Let's make sure that we're doing everything to be able to meet that long plan for retirement.
Exactly. John, how can people reach out to you? Because you are an expert. It's good to team up with you and see if you're on the right track for retirement.
Oh yeah, go to our website, openairadvisors.com. There you can schedule a meeting. You can, we've got a lot of calculators, budget worksheets, all the tools you need to be able to create a successful retirement. But again, I would say schedule a time to come in and meet with us. You need someone that's going to be able to put all of those different aspects together. Someone that's a specialist in Social Security, risk management, 401k planning, IRAs, someone that can put all of that together and finally create a tax plan specific to your own situation.
And so for them, one of the things that we were looking at as we were doing our Clear Path Retirement Guide was, as we go through time, they're actually going into a higher tax bracket. And so just like Stuart was talking about, if taxes are a roller coaster, really what we're trying to do when we look through it, and the only way you can do it is through a full plan. The only way you can see the pitfalls is by doing a complete plan. But you look at it and you say, okay, I know that we're going to be in a higher tax bracket later on. What can I be doing now? What can I be doing today to smooth out that roller coaster so that it's not something that catches us in retirement or catches us on down the road and we have a big tax bill that we weren't expecting.
Big headline today, President Biden unveiling his plan today to cancel student loan debt. So what does that mean for you? $10,000 going to be canceled if you are earning less than $125,000 a year, or for families or head of households who make $250,000 or less. And up to an additional $10,000 will be forgiven if you receive Pell Grants. The president also announced to phase this all in, there is now a pause on student loan payments, and that'll last until the last day of this year. The Department of Education estimates roughly 27 million people are going to qualify to receive student debt loan relief. If you fall into that category, you might hear this and say, well, how do I go about all of this? Tonight, our Aaron Jones speaking to a local financial advisor about next steps.
When I was walking through the student union, I saw the announcement.
Duke Nguyen and other college students anxious to see what President Biden had to say on student loan forgiveness.
I felt kind of happy because Biden was doing something about it, because it was really important for me.
It will help my family a lot and pay for the student loans.
President Biden is forgiving $20,000 to Pell Grant recipients and $10,000 to other borrowers, capped for borrowers who earn less than $125,000.
It's our understanding that you cannot apply for this yet. There's a website coming. One thing that I would say is just because you're getting a little bit of debt forgiveness and you're not having to make those payments today doesn't give us this isn't a reason to go rack up more debt.
Those swings in the market are really good times to look at your portfolio and review your portfolio, because you never want to lose any money, but when that market does kind of correct or kind of pull back a bit, that might be a really good time to reach out to your advisor, or better yet, have your advisor reach out to you to let you know, hey, this kind of happened. Remember when we talked about this? This is a good time to come back and actually pull the trigger on a couple of those different things. So it's going to be really important, if you have that communication, you see swings, you see legislation, you've put the bullet, or you put something in the back of their mind, but now it's time to execute. And so finding the time to do that's going to be really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that point, how scary can it be if, so let's say last year in March when the market takes a big dive, how scary can a situation like that be if you never had a plan in place?
No doubt.
Right? If there's no roadmap, you never had any plan.
No point of reference.
Nothing. Big scary move in the market, all of a sudden these accounts are down 20, 30, 40%, and you never had any plan in place. It's a good feeling to know that there's plans in place to manage that risk. And again, without that roadmap, it can be a scary time. So having an advisor or professional in place and put it all together for you and something to reference, hey, we planned for these kind of events, right?
Yeah.
And then you can just check back with that advisor or that professional like us and say, did we plan for this, and what were we going to do? Because you're not the financial planner. You don't do this every day, but we do. So it's a good time to just review those plans again, and they're flexible, they're adjustable. So we want to make sure that it's in place and it's working every way you want it to.
Right now with all the volatility in the market, most people are looking at their accounts and wondering, can I retire? I think one of the biggest things we answer for a lot of folks that are coming into our offices is, can you retire?
We like to spend a lot of time with our clients so they truly understand kind of like where are the guardrails, and basically how are their plans going to do depending on certain situations.
One size does not fit all. People are different and plans have to match the person.
What we do is we spend a lot of time getting to know our clients, understanding what their objectives are, their goals, get them on a right track where every day that goes by, every month that goes by, they're not constantly worried about where is this next distribution coming from.